Oh, David, how's it going? I'm glad to see you here. And I apologize for streaming a little bit late. My wife wanted a family meeting. Nothing serious. We were just talking whether or not we should go for holidays someplace. But I said definitely not out of the country because you don't know how the governments of the world decide restrictions nowadays. And secondly, inside the country, we don't have a car. So in Romania, you have a lot of cool landmarks to visit, but you need a car to get there. So, meh, probably not. I will not remove the wrench then if it is yours. I should remove the wrench. I should make a great wrench reset in order to bring equality to the channel. Bring back equality. Build back equality. I'll probably announce it in the next Weekend Stupid. So, I made the video today where I talked about right wingers getting offended about Superman getting bucked. Like someone broke Superman's buck. And I had Doomcock start in that video. And everyone is like, Doomcock is not right wing. Look, I never said Doomcock is right wing. It's just that his video kind of summarized the emotions that right wingers are experiencing on Twitter. Like, I know people that I talk on Twitter. I know they're right wing. They're all upset about Superman picking up the soap in prison. Let's put it like this. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, why is it a bad thing if people are offended? It's a good thing. This is how the culture is played. This is the new meta. All right? I'm not trying to revolutionize anything. I'm not trying to change the system. Just interested in having my side winning. And no, I didn't get my driving license, and I'll tell you why. Because of COVID, I could only have the driving exam twice a year. So in 1 year, I could only attend the driving exam twice. And I live in a city where it has the lowest probability rate in Romania. It's only 20% of people that give the driving test that they manage to pass. And, you know, it's a good thing. If I need more training, that's fine. Like, I don't want to get the driving license and then be in a car crash or something. So it's good, you know. I do master the vehicle. It's just that the hand-eye coordination is lacking. So I'll work on it. I passed the legislative test because you have like a legislative exam where you need to know the laws and whatnot. So that was easy. I passed it without a single flaw, and then it's the driving of the car that's more difficult. But it's fine, you know. Like eventually I'll pass it. I never planned to pass it up until now because I didn't need a car. But now that I live a little bit further away from the city, I do need to get a car in order to move around. Although to be honest, you know, it's not so bad without a car. I mean, all the restaurants are closed here after dark. A pandemic, you know. So it's not that I would have somewhere to go with, and I wouldn't drive all the way outside the city anyway if I had a car right now, because I wouldn't feel comfortable. I would require to drive a little bit more before I would venture off into the unknown. So it is what it is. It's not like play FPS more hand-eye coordination. Like, look, when you're driving a car for the first time, you have to watch the speed of the car. You have to know what gear you're in. You have to know what intersection is coming up. You have to keep the car on the road, and like all of these things, it's probably very easy for a person that's been driving for a while. But for a beginner, it's kind of stressful, and I guess like the only way you can learn how to drive is to just keep doing it. Just keep practicing and practicing, and eventually you have the muscle memory kicking in. It's not like the first person shooter that I don't know how to move the car and turn the wheel. No, that's not the problem. But still, whatever. Get a battery and inverter in your car. No reason not to have power. Dude, I don't have a car yet. I don't even have a license. Like, first I would need to take the license and then I'll buy a car. But to be honest, it's good because I don't even have money for a car. Everything that I make goes to pay for the loan that I made for this house. So I need to pay the mortgage because if dark times are coming, I don't want to be caught flat-footed. We do have automatic transmission vehicles, but our family, so mine and hers, my wife's, both have cars with manual transmission. So I would have to get a manual. I would have to get a manual transmission driving license first, because if you get an automatic driving license in Romania, you can't drive on a different car. So if you get a manual driving license, you can drive on any car you want. But if you get an automatic driving license, you can only drive on cars that have automatic. It's kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense. Whatever, it is what it is. And it's kind of interesting because you have like a lot of people that are old and people who are experienced drivers, and it's like, oh no, I need manual because I want to feel the car. It's kind of like if you guys played video games back in the day, if you used to play Quake and Doom, when Doom came out, you could only play it on keyboard. Like the first Doom, believe it or not, it didn't have a mouse. So you played it with the arrow keys, because that's how people played games then. You played it with the arrow keys, and there was absolutely no mouse required. And then you have Quake coming out, and Quake was also like Doom. You played it with the arrow keys, but there was an option in the console where you would type /m look, like mouse look, I guess. And you could use the mouse to move around, right? And this was very important to have in multiplayer. But there were boomers, there were old gamers, like I guess even gamers older than myself, and they were like, why do you need a mouse to play Quake? Yeah, you can play it with the arrow keys like a man. So it's kind of funny. It's the same with the cars now. It's like, why do you need a manual driving car? When you have an automatic, just press the pedal to the metal and press brake, and that's it. Why do you need 3 pedals to drive a car? To be honest, like I'm actually used to manual transmission. It's not that. That's not the problem. How much did I take out as a loan? $100,000. So I think I paid around $20,000 by now, or maybe 30. So yeah, it's getting paid. I want to pay it in 5 years. That's my goal. So hopefully the inflation isn't going to get really bad by then. Because the thing is, like, I made the loan in the bank so that it's fixed payment. So for 5 years, the bank can't increase the payment that I have to take every month, which is why I'm setting myself for 5 years. Okay. Should we wait for more people or should we get started? Because I have some really interesting articles to read today. I didn't realize how hot Brittany Venti it was. Here's an interesting thing. Usually girls online, so I'm talking about Twitch streamer, I'm talking about, girls that appear on YouTube. And look, it's Abdi Muhammad again. So usually girls that appear online, if they manage to stay online for more than 5 years, it shows that they actually have content, and it's not just because of looks. Because like in 5 years, every girl becomes vintage, and when she becomes vintage, there's younger girls that are going to take her place. So, yeah, Brittany Venti, I don't think people watch her just because she's hot. I think people legitimately watch her for the content. Personally, I'm really happy to get some of that sweet Kryptonian tale. There was no kryptonite condom involved. My manhood is that strong. So, yeah, for those of you who haven't watched my other channel, there's a comic book which came out recently where Superman was molested in prison. And a lot of people are upset. Here's the thing. There's actually multiple superheroes that have been molested throughout the years. Batgirl is one of them. You also have The Watchmen. You have, I think Miss Marvel was also molested. But what's interesting to point is that this is not a new comic. They are remaking this comic from the 60s. So in the 60s, Superman was captured by the Soviet Union, and he was sent to a gulag. Now, he wasn't molested then. He was still tortured. So they tried to remake that story, which is kind of interesting. Again, like, I don't want to stop people from getting offended. Like, the more criticism DC Comics gets, the better. But I'm just telling you that I personally don't really care this much. I mean, there are other things that I care, like removing boobies from my anime. That's something that I really care about. But this is just not it, and I'm being honest. You know, I wish I cared, but I just don't. And you don't have to be like me. Like, if you care, go on. In fact, I encourage you to care. Like, go do that. Go write the email of complaint that you don't like the fact that some general broke Superman's buck. You know, like, go do that. I don't mind. Anyway. Would be weird if it didn't happen for Batgirl at some point. Oh my god, like what happened to Batgirl is so dark. You can even Google it on YouTube. I need to post it in a way so that the AI doesn't flag it. Joker grapes Batgirl, and you can find the video. So not only does he shoot her, she was also pregnant with Batman's child at the point. So you gotta understand, Batman is like 40, and she was, I think, like 18 or 20. Plus, it's so bizarre considering the fact that Batman was a mentor. Like, there is so many wrong things with that. But anyway, right. So the Joker comes to her house, and when she answers the door, she's Barbara, and the Joker just wanted to shoot Barbara because she was Gordon's daughter. Like, he didn't know it's Batgirl. So he shoots her, paralyzes her, and then, also kills Batman's child by doing so, and then strips her naked and takes pictures of that and sends it to her father. So just so you can understand how dark comic books used to be. And I think, like, this is also due to the fact of censorship, because for a while cartoons and comic books were sanitized. So you couldn't show things even minute. Like, you couldn't show guns, you couldn't show blood, you couldn't show anyone dying, you couldn't have the villain winning. And after that, you get all of the dark age of comics, and where everything is grim dark, everything is gloomy and depressed, and everything is super serious. Until people got tired of that, and now if you look at comics, everything is comedy. So they're doing like the Marvel comedy even when they're not supposed to. There's The Witcher season 2, where the horse dies, so Roach dies, and it's Henry Cavill that actually saves the show, because initially the screenwriter, the director, they wanted to make some joke about it, like they wanted to make a comedic moment about that, just to be like Marvel, just to have that Marvelitis, if you will. So yeah, I mean, right now comedy is all about jokes and humor and like Marvel, but it's the type of Marvel silly jokes, right? Because it's very difficult to make comedy in the world of political correctness. So what they do is they curse a lot. They try to have like South Park toilet humor, but unlike that, South Park was actually edgy. Like, South Park didn't have any breaks. But in progressive culture, there are many breaks. Like, you can't joke about certain things. So you can only joke about the same things over and over and over, and you can curse a lot, which doesn't sell. What is interesting is that the masses celebrate things like Invincible or The Boys, because they try to subvert, I guess, the superhero trope. They're trying to be more realistic, because yeah, if superheroes existed, you would definitely have something more similar to Invincible or The Boys. Think about it, like, a superhero is a person that can literally do whatever they want, and there is no control. Like, no one can arrest them, no one can hold them accountable. So they're pretty much like demigods. And in the real world, yeah, I think you would get probably a benevolent dictator, like in Injustice. You would have like a Superman that would become a dictator, but not to oppress people, but legitimately because he thinks he could end world wars and he can end world hunger and whatnot. So I definitely think that is the way, that is the reason people are attracted to this. They are like a pizza cutter, all edge and no point. That is such a good observation. I'm going to steal that. What is that? Like cigarette, clock, coffin? I don't get it. I guess like smoking, it's only a matter of time until you get to the coffin. By the way, what I find interesting is the fact that anime, even though it has tropes, so you have like isekai anime and you have shonen, and like you have all of these animes, they still don't get stale. I mean, I'm still surprised whatever a new anime comes out, like the originality of it. It's the creativity unleashed. I mean, who would have expected an anime like Attack on Titan, and who would expect something like the final season in Attack on Titan? I mean, it just blows your mind. And then you can compare it with My Hero Academia, which, by the way, My Hero Academia, in my opinion, is kind of like a ripoff of Naruto. It's got many of the same motifs. You have the main character, which is super mega weak. His friend is super mega strong. And I guess like the only difference is that in Naruto he is an orphan. But even then, it's like, okay, so the main character is incredibly weak and pathetic, but he trains really hard and he makes a lot of friends along the way. And then he becomes stronger and stronger. And I'm pretty sure that in My Hero Academia, the main character is going to become just as strong as All Might, if not stronger. But it's just so, the thing is, like, it's still good. It's not like, oh my god, I have seen this anime before. No, like, even though it's so similar, it's so different that it's still really great. I guess like My Hero Academia has absolutely no focus on romance whatsoever. I mean, in Naruto, a big plotline was Naruto's love for not Hinata's love for Naruto and Naruto's love for what the fuck was her name? Jesus Christ, Sakura. Oh my god, I hated that character. But My Hero Academia doesn't have that. In fact, many of the heroes don't even have romances. Like it's kind of alluded in an episode or two, but they're not hooking up. They're not trying to make this into a drama, into a soap opera, which I guess is why it's interesting, because all the other cape shit has romance focused. I mean, you look at The Flash on CW, like, oh my god, his love for Iris. You look at Arrow. Oh my god, all his love for that geeky chick, hacker, wizard, whatever. And My Hero Academia just doesn't do that. Good Kryptonite tale can only be enjoyed without consent. It's not even. I mean, is it canon that he actually got molested? Because it's kind of implied. I mean, they could have just beaten him, but it is what it is. Uzaki's mother is the best girl. Oh, I see what you did there. It's like, because if you say you like Uzaki, people start having questions. But if you say Uzaki's mother, then people are happy. Imagine being married and hating romance. Oh, I don't hate romance. I just hate the bad type of romance. So when you have a romance like you have in The Flash, where he is simping for Iris, like when the man is completely pathetic and he just pursues the girl and he chases her and he chases her, and after 2 seasons he manages to get her, that is bullshit romance. If you want good romance, either watch anime or watch some Disney movies. Like, Disney movies are movies that have amazing romance. Men and women like Disney movies. For example, Mulan. Mulan is excellent. Who doesn't like that? Except for Beauty and the Beast. I really hated Beauty and the Beast. Gaston should have got the woman. Like, what is wrong with Belle? I guess like Beauty and the Beast just goes to show, if you have a lot of money, if you have a castle, then you can grab her by the pussy and she will consent. I guess that is the moral lesson from Beauty and the Beast. Computer wizard, yes. Alright. Aladdin? No, Aladdin actually makes sense. I mean, Aladdin had the genie. Do you know how expensive that lamp would have been? In the fictional world of Agrabah, like, there would have probably been people that would give Aladdin their entire kingdom for that lamp. So no, like it's another story of a rich boy that manages to get the girl. Think about it. Like, if how much do you think Jeff Bezos would have paid for the lamp in Aladdin? Do you not think he would give $1 trillion for that lamp? Like, he would probably make a loan just to be able to buy it. I mean, that lamp is precious. Like, no one can put a price on it. You go to any person in the world and you ask them for all their money, they would probably trade it for that lamp. Because then they can wish the money back. But still, it's just, I'm just trying to point out that Aladdin was not poor. Despite the rumors, he was actually the wealthiest man in entire Agrabah. Can you buy a lamp on Alibaba? No. Gaston was the hero. Well, but then like, think about it, okay? Like let's go to Beauty and the Beast and think about it a little bit, right? So Gaston, like what does he know? Because a lot of people judge the story of Beauty and the Beast based on what people know. But let's look at from Gaston, right? So Gaston first has Belle's father go again and talk about a beast that kidnapped his daughter, right? So that is the first thing that Gaston knows. And then you have Belle showing him the magic mirror with the beast. So from his point of view, there is a beast in the wilderness that's kidnapping people and is capable of performing magical spells. So why wouldn't he believe that Belle is actually bewitched by the beast? That he used his magic to mind control her? So, of course he is going to get people riled up and break into the castle. And it's not like he's standing behind. No, he's leading the charge. He's the one that goes in and fights the beast. And he almost won, except for magic bullshit. But still, I just want to say that Gaston did nothing wrong. They can't deny me my back breaking at the strongest being on earth. I fucking heard that bucket ever. Can you imagine though? Like you have three thugs arrested in jail, and it's like, what are you in for? I robbed the bank. What did you do? Murder. What did you do? I fucked Superman. God. Belle is dog pilled. Oh yeah, well, it actually does make sense that Belle is a furry. That is the only explanation. But again, it's like every single person that gets the girl in Walt Disney is rich. Is there a poor guy that manages to get the girl in any Walt Disney movie? I guess like Lady and the Tramp, but that's not a human, so it doesn't count. There must be one, right? So Ariel, he's the prince. Lion King, I don't know. Well, he's still rich, but again, not a human, doesn't count. Mulan. I mean, he's a noble. The general is probably the most respected person in the entire military because he managed to win the campaign against the Huns, and he is a noble. So yeah, he is also obscenely rich. Yeah, I don't think there's a single poor guy that manages to be a hero in Walt Disney. The Hunchback doesn't get the girl. You're just making my point right now. The Hunchback doesn't get the girl. It's the captain of the guard, which gets the girl, and well, he's probably a member of the aristocracy if he is the captain of the guard. So, Frozen. Well, I mean, there is no guy that gets the girl, right? It was still a prince, who for some reason it's just like subverting your expectation. Like all of a sudden he decides to be evil, but it's like it makes absolutely no sense from the story point of view. Because, like, for the first half, he actually gives blankets, and he tries to help the people through the cold, and then he just refuses to save Elsa with a kiss because he wants her kingdom. And it's like, but you're already married to her. You're already the king. You already have the kingdom. Like, what motivation is that? That's a progressive motivation. That's like, honestly, no, I need to talk about Frozen, because this actually really annoys me. Right? A lot of people like Frozen, and I don't know why. So you got this guy, right? Hans. And Hans falls in love with Elsa and marries her. And when Elsa runs away and she has her bitch moment on top of the mountain and causes massive frost and storms to come over the kingdom, like the evil frost witch that she is, Hans actually starts helping the people. So he goes down and gives blankets to the people and tries to provide shelter for them and organize the rescue and whatnot. And then it turns out that Elsa is dying, right? When the evil witch comes down from the mountain, she's dying. And only the true kiss can save her. So Hans refuses to kiss her because he reveals that he wants her kingdom. And I'm thinking, motherfucker, or you already have a hot girl, because it's not like she's ugly or anything. You already have her kingdom because you're married to her, so you're the king. Why are you doing this? Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. And even then, it's like, after she gets saved, he tries to kill her, and I'm thinking, alright, but even if you were to kill her, at this point, people would rise up against you. They would view you as illegitimate. Like, you know, it's one thing if she gets sick and she dies and you refuse to give her medicine, but it's another thing to kill her in cold blood, because now, I mean, you're a queen slayer. You killed your wife. Like, what are there? So this is, in my opinion, the worst villain in the entire Disney franchise. And the only reason he is bad is because I guess like they want to have this really dumb take that the only true love you can find is not with another person, but it's between family, because that's how Elsa is saved. She kisses her sister, and that's the true love, right? The love between family members. Such a shit movie. God damn it. It is absolute shit. Whatever. Her name is Anna? No. It's Elsa. Oh yeah. Hold on, my bad. Oh god, I remembered it poorly. Yeah. It's Elsa. That and he was married with Anna. But even then, like, if he manages to kill Elsa, wouldn't Anna just divorce him at that point? You know, it's one thing if she's dying and he just allows her to die in cold blood. By not giving her medicine, but it's another thing if he just tries to shank her. I mean, yeah, he was the eighth child in his own king. Yeah, I remember. Sorry, my bad. Like I forgot the movie. It's been like years since I seen it. But if that's the case, why not just try to seduce Elsa? Like, he could have just gone to her and tried to seduce and marry her, rather than try to seduce and marry Anna. It makes no sense. Whatever. Yeah, I did say cold blood, no pun intended. Originally, Frozen had a better script, but feminists tried to ruin it. I'm not surprised. If you look at the Maleficent movie, it's the same idea. It's like you can't find love with another person. The only love you can find is with family. So in Maleficent, you have like the evil queen, and she's cursing the princess, but after a while, like, gets attached to the princess by playing the role of a mother figure, and you know, she tries to get like different princes to come in and break the curse, but none of them can. And the only way the curse is broken is when she kisses the princess, which gets to show that yeah, like, only love between family, or in this case, it's like a woman and a woman. It is just so. How many people will relate to that message out of an audience of millions? Between watching you for ages, have some cash for food. Well, thank you, Thomas. You know, like, the kittens actually grew, and I need to start buying more cat food. Bengal kittens are very difficult because they only eat chicken, or they only eat super premium cat food. If you give them anything else, they get diarrhea. So it is what it is. Anyway, let's actually start going into the main topic of the day, which is something that I found to be kind of hilarious. because of just how damaging it can get. Let me just find out where it is. Oh, I didn't save that. Oh, don't tell me I didn't save it. There must be a way I can get it back. So here we go. The Cambridge Center for Animal Rights Law. So I already made a video where I explain how ridiculous this is. Like, there is no way this would survive in a free market. They're not even training lawyers how to understand animal law so that, you know, maybe you can specialize on a particular field. They're just training students to become activists. So you go to a university and you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to do what? Be an activist? But not only that, like, it's in the UK. So in the UK, it's not that you can make a loan to pay for it. It's the taxpayer pays for it. So every single person in the UK pays for this shit so that these people can gorge themselves and live luxurious lifestyles on the back of the working class while teaching absolute horseshit. So an academic institute, the central role is to research, reflect, and publish. They're talking almost as if they're researching a new cure for cancer or something that a society benefits from. No, they're researching how to overthrow the current system, right? They're researching how to overthrow capitalism using capitalist money. This is, by the way, what the Nazis did. For those of you who don't know, I think it was one of the Nazi ideologues who said, like, if the state keeps wanting to found us, why would we be against it? Because they started tapping into various public programs and public resources and getting taxpayer money. So the legal groundwork have been done, and there will be understanding of what animal rights law could look like and what the implications would be. And by the way, it's just like Marxist ideology. Like, for example, they want to call animals non-human person. So instead of calling it, instead of saying that a cow is an animal, it's Mrs. Cow now. Or Miss Cow. Or in fact, I don't even know how, because how do you know if the cow identifies as a female? So we are delighted to see that there is national interest in the UK in animal rights law. Yeah, because you're tricking people. Like, most people will think when you say animal rights, they will think that you're against someone beating a puppy to death, right? So of course people don't want that to happen, and they're going to say, wow, like this is good. Like, we need to raise awareness on animal rights. But they don't think it's like, all right, well, you can't say that a cow is an animal. You need to say that the cow is a non-people person. Like, fuck off. So the article is available here, right? Boom, 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 boom. Let me just get through this. Let me work my magic. Humanizing animal gives a new privilege, gives a new meaning to power and privilege. Well, the thing with humanizing animals, there is a reason why so many women have cats, because they infantilize cats. It's the big eyes that makes the cat look like a baby. And there's so many women that don't have a family, but they want to return to something when they go home. And they don't want a dog, because a dog is like a child. You have to walk it. You have to take care of it, give it attention. So they get a cat because it's a very low maintenance animal. I'm not saying that everyone with a cat thinks like this, but a lot of people with cats, they definitely do. I don't think I can open this. It wants money from me. The Telegraph, I mean. All right, whatever. You know, let's get through it with this article. So, the center is pleased to announce its second animal rights law essay competition. And we are inviting the question: imagine the world 50 years from now. Describe what you think the laws governing animals would look like. and how they will influence society at that point. So it's probably like encouraging people to become veganists. Which, by the way, if that happens, like if they actually try to get people to be vegan and they ban meat in Europe, that's it. I'm moving out. I mean, I don't care, if the peasantry, because it can only happen if the peasantry wants it, right? Like, if the government tells you you're not going to be able to eat meat from now on, and people go, sure, why not? Then the government will just take your meat away. Right? It's the government you deserve. So if the peasantry wants it, fine, let them live like this. I will personally just move out. I'll probably go to Russia, or I'll go to somewhere else where I can eat meat. I mean, this is like the last stand for me. If you take away my meat and you give me the bugs, all right, let other people live like this. But it's kind of annoying because there was an entire article where they actually said like how they wanted to implement political correctness and advocating for animal rights. And I don't understand why I didn't save it. I'm such an idiot. And the thing is, like, if I try to read the article, because I found it, like, look, I'm not getting the Telegraph my money. It's not taking my money. Let's see if I look for a non-human person, if I'm going to find. Oh yeah, okay, I found it in the Times. Like, maybe I can read it in the Times. Okay, I found it. So, look at the garbage they're teaching. Called a non-human person, can a cow be protected in the courts from being turned into a burger? Does a fish have the right to not be caught and killed? Should it be illegal to keep animals in a zoo? Here's the interesting thing, right? Like, if we were to assume that cows have the same rights as a human, then we should also assume that if a dog kills a cow, the dog should be imprisoned. Seriously, think about it. Like, this is the argument you need to make. If we assume that animals are exactly the same like humans, so a cat has the exact same human rights, but we're going to call it animal rights, then it means that if a dog bites a cat, then the dog should be in prison. Am I not correct? Am I not following the logic? Because this is what you would end up with. Right? Like, why would human? But I guess, like, this is progressive ideology, right? The strong needs to serve the weak. So, in other words, because humans are stronger than cows, not physically, but we are able to dominate cows very well by putting them in slaughterhouses and turning them into burgers. So if humans are stronger than cows, then that means that the humans need to become the servants of cows. And the problem with this is, like, there are certain nations in the world that do worship cows. Like, that's fine. Like, there is a religious aspect to the veneration of the bovine. But they eat other types of meat. So, for example, in the Hindi culture, yeah, they consider cows sacred, but they eat pork. And then you have the Muslims, which are, they don't consider the cow sacred, but they don't eat pork. You still have meat, but where this is trying to go is like a culture of shaming you for wanting to eat meat and trying to push insects on you as if an insect is not an animal. I mean, the thing is, it's rooted into human empathy and the way human empathy functions. We are more empathetic to things that look like us, and the more a thing doesn't look like us, the less empathetic we become. So, for example, if you see a cow and you're watching Animal Planet and you see a lion, eating a cow that's still alive, you get put off by it. It's like, oh my God, that is horrible, right? Why? Because you kind of get how it would be if you were in the place of the cow, so you feel empathy. But if you look at the clam, when someone forcefully opens a clam, you don't feel anything because it's not, like, your brain doesn't make the connection. You're not a clam. You don't know how it's like to be forcefully opened. You know, you have less empathy towards a crab. You know, like if someone cuts the antenna off a crab, I mean, yeah, it's kind of ugh, but it's not the same like if someone would cut the tail off a cat, right? So that's why we don't really have empathy towards plants. Like they will say, well, yes, plants don't have pain receptors. Okay, so what if they did? I guarantee to you that if you knew that a tree feels pain when you cut it, people would still cut the tree. Like it's not like they just try to justify it, but it's not that. Okay, it's not the fact that plants don't feel pain. It's just the fact that they are so distant from us that we can't even imagine how the life of a plant must be, to the point where we just don't give a shit. Like we really do not care. Like let me give you an example. If let's say a person passes away and they have a dog with them. So when people find out that the person is dead, they find the dog malnourished and the dog is all skin and bones because no one fed it. Like everyone is going to go, oh my God, that is so horrible. Oh, poor puppy, look what happened. Look what the puppy went through, right? But then imagine the same thing happens and you find out that the person's plants have started withering in the apartment because no one was there to water them. Like, would people even bat an eyelid? Would they even give a fuck? Right? Like, a plant is a living thing, just like the dog. But we care about the dog because of the empathetical nature. Because it looks more like us. It has, well, in the sense that it has eyes, it has a mouth, it is a mammal, it's, right? So that's the thing. And this is why, all the vegans don't care about the insects. Because you can't really understand how an insect feels. Like the life of an insect is so, and it's not even the size, by the way, because you have like these really tiny monkeys that are the size of a thumb. Like no one would consider you to be a good person if you step on one of those monkeys and you end it, right? But if you step on a spider, no one gives a shit. And the same with like a little chick, like a baby chick. I mean, they're very tiny, they're small. So it's not the size that makes us care about animals more than insects. It is with the fact that they are so detached from the evolutionary tree when compared to humans that we just don't give a fuck. And you're never going to be able to make the argument. I mean, it's some lizard brain type of shit. When driving, remember that most people can only hold 5 to 7 things in mind at a time. Your clutch foot and your gear shifters are taking up part 1. Valuable memory space. If you are turning or watching your speed and someone is close behind you, you are doing to one slot, don't forget to breathe. Well, like the thing is, you need to have it in muscle memory so that you don't think about it. You kind of do it like reflex. Like, for example, when you're walking down the street, you're not thinking like, okay, I need to put my left foot forward, and then I need to put my right foot forward, and then the left. And I need to make sure that I maintain balance while doing all of this. And I need to keep up my breathing. I need to inhale, exhale. Like, no one thinks about these things because they're part of reflex now. So you're doing them automatically. They're not actually taking up memory space in your head. So a person who drove a car for more than 5 years probably doesn't even think of the clutch. He just, quote unquote, feels the car. That's how most people will even express themselves. It's like, yeah, I feel the vehicle. I feel the car. KFC tweeted the stone toss meme. Get the hell out. That would be... What does it mean? I don't even get it. It's not even funny. I guess like they're trying to appeal to the younger audience. Why? Yeah, look, someone with the Gargura avatar. Colonel, what does this mean? I don't even get the meme. So weird. I don't even think they know what they tweeted. Yeah, it's like why can't they hire the guy running the Wendy's Twitter? Like the Wendy's actually understands memes and stuff. It's a meme from another meme. It's memeception. That meme needs a paragraph of text. Unless there's someone saying Stontas is a Nazi and the replies is not real. Uh, just I don't know. I'm waiting for. By the way, like if they are going to ban meat and you're going to have bugs, are you going to eat bugs at KFC? Here's the thing, by the way, with eating the bugs, and this is what I genuinely worry about. So the bugs are coming, all right, and I know right wingers in the United States, in Texas, who live in a rural area, and they are starting to have bug farms because in the European Union and in many other countries, they're trying to legalize selling bugs. And the thing is, you already eat bugs right now. For example, certain coloring in foods is made from bugs. So if you eat any sweets, any colorful like macaroons, you know those. Yeah, they have like all the color comes from certain bugs. I'm not against like eating bugs per se because I don't even know how they taste like, and it's not like they're going to give you a raw cricket. They're going to turn it into a bug paste and use that paste in order to make sausages and whatnot. And they're probably going to mix the paste with other meat in the beginning. Whatever, fine. That's not the problem. The problem is that you're going to, like, the government is trying to make it more and more difficult for meat producers. So they keep taxing them more and more and more. So I assume, like, if you're like a bug producer and you're farming the crickets or whatever, you're not going to pay carbon tax. So it's going to be a lot more cheaper for you to make the crickets, which is going to mean that eating bug meat is going to be cheaper than eating actual meat. And this is going to be on purpose because the government is taxing the actual meat industry, but it's going to probably give subsidies and whatnot to people farming the crickets. So the issue is that you're going to have food that the average people are going to be able to buy, and it's mostly bug food. And then you're going to have like the actual meat, like the steaks and the veal, that are going to be so expensive that only the rich can afford it. So that's my problem with it. You're going to buy, and you might not even find like actual burgers anymore. You're going to try look for burgers, and the best you can find is like a burger that has 25% cow meat and everything else is from bugs. They taste musty. Burger King already has a plant burger. Well, the thing with the plant burger is that it's not a new invention. I mean, vegan food already exists. So, I don't care. Again, like, as long as I'm not forced to eat it, I don't give a shit. Especially, like, I also eat seafood, and there's a lot of seafood that looks disgusting when you think about it, like if you see the live animal. But if cooked properly, it can look tasty. So it depends. The Japanese have derived the protein sludge from sewage. Well, whatever. Like, I'm not against people eating all sorts of weird stuff as long as it's not forced upon me. And if the government taxes the actual slaughterhouses and the actual farmers, then it is being forced on me. Because now I have to pay extra for something that the free market wouldn't make me pay extra. Buy extra good cat food, and don't forget to ask the experts if you're right before saying something wrong. So it's not even about asking the experts, all right? Because I noticed this. let me think of an example. All right. Um, for example, if I were to say, I don't like eating bugs, or no, you know what? I can say I don't think having a vegan diet is healthy, right? You're going to get a vegan go like, oh, how do you know? Are you an expert? And I can say, yeah, but I'm a doctor. And they will say, oh, you're a doctor. But are you a doctor specializing in nutrition? Right? So it's not just you're an expert now. You need to be the expert specialized in that particular area of the field. So are you a nutritionist? Did you learn about nutrition at med school? And you can say, yeah, I'm a doctor and I'm a nutritionist. Ah, goddamn. But do you follow the scientific consensus? Right? So now it's not enough that you're a doctor. Now you need to be a doctor that's specialized in nutrition, and you need to follow the scientific consensus. And if you do follow the scientific consensus, what is the scientific consensus anyway, right? That is such a horseshit thing. Like, when you look at science, you have the scientific theory. So you have a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, then you have a conclusion, and people should be able to reproduce your experiments. That is what science is. What the scientific consensus is government-approved science. And what the government does is, like, it does everything that they have been doing since the dawn of mankind. Like, any leader, any ruler will try to surround themselves with people that agree with his policy. So, for example, the king would surround himself with religious people that agreed with his policies. Right? They wouldn't get like a religious person that said, oh no, we need to do things completely differently because it upsets God. Like, no, that person would never be in the king's court. A perfect example is with economists, right? Like, if you want to be an economist that works for the government, well, you need to have an ideology. You need to write books that justifies the government spending more. Like, if you're an economist that says, oh no, the government is spending too much and taxation is theft, they will never take you, right? Because they need people that justify their government positions, that justify their policies. It is what it is. Science isn't a democracy. Well, it's also that. The best example that I get to say is that, look, the science can tell you that urine is a good electrical conductor. Politicians will tell you whether or not you're allowed to piss on an electric fence, right? So it's not like if you piss on an electric fence, you're a science denier. I mean, they can make the argument that you're a stupid person or that you're a person that is not in a good state of mind. But pissing on an electric fence is not science denialism. Right? It's a matter of policy. You'd learn about nutrition during medical school even if you don't specialize in it. Oh no, but they want the specialist, right? It's not enough if you learn it. And by the way, I'll tell you something about nutrition. Most people are very different built from one another. So when it comes to nutrition, it's one of those areas where it's literally like you need to talk with the individual. Because, for example, why do some people love pickles and there are other people who can't stand pickles? Like, I knew a person that if they would see a pickle in their sandwich, they would refuse to eat the sandwich even if the pickle was removed, right? So there are people who can tolerate some foods, and then there are people who barf if they eat the exact same food. And then you also have to take into account that there are some people that literally cannot eat certain things. So, for example, there are people who are lactose intolerant. And then there are people who might have a specific genetic illness. Celiac disease, for example, you get really sick and you can die if you eat gluten. So those people aren't allowed to eat anything that has gluten in it, right? So it's the same with the vegan diet. Like, yeah, sure, some people can have a vegan diet. I personally don't know many. Like, usually every single vegan that I knew, after 5 years gave up on it. But I'm pretty sure there might be some people that can have a vegan diet. But to enforce it on an entire population, to like force people... And again, human beings are omnivores. I know that vegetarians don't want to admit this, but we are omnivores. And you can read ancient texts from thousands of years before Christ especially religious texts, where they talk about how they would eat animals and how they would sacrifice animals for the gods and whatnot. And this is like the same throughout the entire planet. It's not like a conspiracy. It's not like the meat industry is profiting from people in a grand conspiracy. Humans are also similar, I guess, nutritionally. Like on our diet, we're very similar to how pigs eat, right? It's kind of like the same. Well, obviously we don't eat pig food, but usually if it's good for a pig, a human can eat it. Like that doesn't mean you should though. So if you take a pork, like you take a pig, and you refuse to give it meat, and you only give it vegetables, it's going to get sick. Now, some pigs are going to get fine, but overall, probably not. So it depends from person to person. You know, like this is what I noticed. It's like a vegan that can't have his diet anymore. Like he feels sick, he feels bad. And you can even see visually that the person is not doing well. And they go on a forum and they say, look, I can't keep the diet anymore. Oh my God, he gets shamed by the entire community. And they call him weak and they call him pathetic and whatnot. And I'm like, dude. It's like, what are you doing? I didn't say that my seafood are bugs. I said that my seafood looks disgusting. Like bugs look disgusting, and there is seafood that looks disgusting. Okay, so my connection was with the level of disgust, not with the fact that seafood is made out of bugs. Yeah, no, from what I can tell, like humans are supposed to eat more plants. I think a balanced diet where you eat 60 or 75% plants and is supplemented with 25% meat is the optimum. This is pretty much how humans lived throughout the medieval time period and before that. Like most people didn't really have access to meat like we have now. So people would probably just eat salads, grain, bread. Beer was actually a strong food, but it sounds weird when you say beer is a food. Yeah, back then you would have like an ale of beer would have the liquid, and at the bottom of the ale you would have like that yeast type of thing, which people would eat. So it was nutritional. As for meat, you would go to the market and you'd have access to some sausages, and you would eat them. Usually towards the end of the week, like Saturday and Sunday, you might have some meat to supplement your food. People who lived next to rivers and seas and oceans, they were very lucky because they had access to fish. So yeah, like peasants in those places could fish a lot. I never said crustaceans are bugs. I said they look disgusting. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Yeah, like the thing with the people in medieval time period is that they ate almost everything from the animal. So when you look at the pork, they ate the entire animal. Like they wouldn't waste anything because it was very difficult then to mass produce meat. So they didn't have like pesticides and industrial farming and all of that. So raising an animal was very difficult, and they would eat everything from that animal, like every little centimeter of the animal. If they could eat it, they would. And it was considered a huge sin to waste food. Lobster used to be garbage food. People fed it to the dogs. I wonder if that's because they didn't know how to cook it properly. That is interesting. I didn't know lobster used to be garbage food. But yeah, I mean, chickens was also considered to be garbage food in the United States, from what I can understand. It's only until the the Revolution, Civil War. So it's only until American Civil War that people start eating chicken. Anyway, right. Let's go to this. So, the Cambridge Center for Animal Law, they want to keep the rapid changing understanding of animal rights in modern society. And its distinction from animal welfare. Oh, are we going to have welfare from animals now? Like, is the government going to tax us more so the cows get welfare? Who knows? The center which states you would need to do that, wouldn't you? Like, if you liberate all the cows, think about it this way: if you liberate all the cows from the slaughterhouses, they would die. I mean, they can't survive. Like, what do you do in New York, right? Like, all the cows are now free, all the chickens are. You need to give them welfare. So you would have, like, they can't live in the wild, especially domesticated chickens. There's no way they can make it in the wild. So what you would need to do is to tax people and use that taxes in order to create like a chicken welfare farm. But like, even then, like, they would just multiply, and you'd still have the same issue. Fun fact though, like, they might actually. So for example, of a pig, if you take pigs, let's say you take a pig farm, and you let the pigs in the wild, apparently they actually do survive, and they turn feral, and they turn into wild boars. And not exactly like wild boars, but like the transformation starts to go towards that. The center, which states itself as apolitical, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to start talking about diversity inclusion anytime soon. It's completely apolitical. Yes, brings together leading academic experts from across the world in order to provide the resources for civil society and governments who's looking to draft laws to deal with the mounting pressure for animals to be treated as non-human persons. Again, this is ridiculous, and I already explained. Like, if a wolf kills a cow, then you need to put the wolf in prison, because the cow would have the same rights as. No, actually, you need to shoot the wolf, I guess. Or no, wait, because he is also a non-human person. Yeah, it would be the same. Like, if another person killed another person, right? Because now they have human rights. So if animals have human rights and a wolf kills a cow, then that wolf violated the rights of the cow, so he needs to be punished. The educational charity is currently providing a course on animal rights law to students at the University of Cambridge, with a program covering everything from the ethics surrounding zoos to the moral quandaries of keeping pets, farming, animal tasting, and slaughtering for meat. Yeah, so keeping pets, they consider that to be slavery. It's complicated, to be honest, because if I was a cat, okay, if you are a cat, what would you like? Would you like to be castrated and imprisoned for the rest of your life in a house with a crazy cat lady? Or would you want to be free and fight other tomcats and mount some female cat bitches? Like, which one do you want? The more we understand animals, their sentience, capabilities, and emotions, the more that the idea of granting rights to animals is worth taking seriously. Like, like, it's, when they say about animal rights, most people will think it should be illegal to beat a puppy to death. And everyone agrees. I don't think there's a single person, well, maybe, the Chinese during their festival. But like, everyone in the West agrees that this is not okay. So they're not talking about that. No, they want like every right that a human has to be extended to animals. As an academic, there is a demand for animals to be granted rights, the legal groundwork. Yeah, because you're an academic. You're not a poor person starving in Africa. If you are a poor person starving in Africa, you wouldn't have time to think about this shit. And by the way, like, everyone is definitely okay with the idea of like humanely putting animals down. So you don't want a slaughterhouse that abuses animals and more than necessary, right? Like, there is a necessary amount of suffering for the animal to be slaughtered, but like, beyond that, it's considered inhumane. There is enough awareness that perhaps the existing paradigm of animal welfare isn't sufficient or doesn't go far enough. Yeah, there isn't enough welfare to point out just how these people are wasting your taxpayer money, which is why I'm trying to raise awareness. Animal rights would mean that they are granted legal protections on their basic interests, such as their interest in being alive, in not being harmed, and in being free wherever possible. Okay, so look, I had mice in my house. Now, I didn't bring the problem to the mouse. The mouse brought the problem to me. And before you can say, well, hold on a little bit, like you built your house in the middle of a field. No. Okay, there weren't mice here before people moved. So they're coming here because of the food, because of the garbage, right? So the mice are the ones bringing the problem to us. Now, mice, especially the ones that I had, were absolutely cute and adorable. Unfortunately, however, uh, they cause a lot of problems. So it's not just the sanitary thing and the stench, which did come, but it's the fact that they can chew the isolation in your house. They can chew the electrical cables. They can start a fire. They can gnaw at the foundation of the house. Like if you have a wooden foundation on your attic, they can gnaw on that. So they're a problem. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're saying animals have rights. Okay, I want to sue the mouse then. I want to issue a lawsuit to the mouse for violating my property. It's trespassing. Oh, but it doesn't. Oh, but you gave it rights. The fuck do I care? Okay, then I want to sue the person that gave the mice rights so that they can pay for the damages that the mouse does to my house. If I'm not allowed to install mice traps. And if my cat eats a mouse, then what? Like, does my cat go to prison now because it committed murder? Fucking hell, I just... You're not going to have these conversations, by the way, because they're going to use political correctness to enforce them. It aims to gather experts and resources to conduct research. And by the way, the research isn't whether or not animals should have rights. The research is going to be how... We already made up our mind. How can we enforce this? How can we stuff it down people's throats? That's the research that they're doing. I wouldn't be even surprised if there are some people there just taking notes to see how long people can suffer this. It's like, let's see how much draconic legislation we can pass until people have had enough. So the Non-Human Rights Project is an organization based in the USA which has filed a habeas corpus petition for Happy, an elephant currently residing in New York, claiming that it is a cognitively complex non-human animal. Yeah, so the problem with this is that they always start with something that most people agree. It's like, well, it's an elephant. It's being mistreated. It's like, don't you like elephants? Why are you being a dick to elephants? And it's like, okay, fine, like whatever. It's an elephant. Yeah, sure. But again, like, what do you do with the mice? What do you do with the vermin? New York Court of Appeals said that Dr. Raffle, associate director, said that the center is sympathetic of the mounting pressure on governance, and it definitely ties with the zeitgeist of this awareness that we're in a climate crisis. I called it. I literally called it. Yeah, they're apolitical, but now they're talking about climate crisis, mass extinction. Like, God. In a world where everything is political, this is the only institution that's apolitical, isn't it? We need to subvert the Chinese with this shit. They need to some humane animal treatment. Muslims too. We have no concept of animal rights. I don't. Like, I guess, like, with Muslims, there is, like, the lack of animal rights when you talk about the slaughtering, because they have, like, the halal slaughter and whatnot. But I'm willing to bet that if you go to Turkey, and Turkey has a very vibrant and diverse cat culture, like, all the people there respect cats. If you go to Turkey and you start abusing a cat in front of a person, you're going to get your ass whooped. I'm willing to bet, even though they have no concept of animal rights or whatnot. It depends on the animal, right? So from what I understand, dogs can be haram in Islam. You're allowed to have a dog not as a pet. Like, you're not allowed to take the dog into your house. But you are allowed to have a guard dog. So you're allowed to have a dog that guards your property. And I'm pretty sure that even in these Islamic nations, if you go and you hurt someone's dog, they're going to hurt you in return. Even though they have no concept of animal rights, as Abdi Muhammad said. Chinese animal rights, I don't know. I suppose that it depends on, like, what you're talking about, rural places, or you're talking about cities. Because look, my grandmother grew up in a farm, and most people, they didn't have any animal rights. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted to an animal, and you wouldn't go to prison because there were no animal rights. Legally binding, I mean. But still, that didn't stop people from treating you like a racist if, for example, you would whip your horse. So if you had a horse pulling a carriage and you were whipping it like a madman and other people saw you doing it, they would treat you exactly the same like you would treat a racist today. Like they would look at you with disgust and they would ostracize you from the community. So yeah, like just because it wasn't a legal thing to have animal rights, it was still considered very taboo to abuse animals. And by abusing animals means like putting them to a suffering that is not needed. So a chicken, right? Like people raise chickens in order to eat them. But if you were like just breaking the chicken's legs, or like not feeding your chickens and allowing them to starve, like yeah, people would just know. Like they rightfully so, you would get moral condemnation. Oh, a new variant of COVID is coming. Dude, like when are people going to understand that viruses mutate and new variants will come up every year? Like, it is what it is. It's what viruses do. They mutate. Some viruses mutate more than others. This one has a very high mutation rate. The fact that there are so few variants by now is kind of shocking. And not only that, it's also the fact that people keep testing it. Like they test and test and test. So yeah, like you're going to find out new variants. People don't test as much for the hepatitis virus. Like I'm pretty sure the hepatitis might possibly have new variants by now, but like because people don't test it every 5 minutes, you wouldn't know. New variant just dropped, yeah. The Corona DLC. This seems doubly stupid. Why torture an animal when you're already planning on eating it? Because some people are sadistic, and it's actually shown that people who torture animals, especially as children, end up being psychopaths and serial killers and stuff. So yeah, I mean, even like let's say if you had a dog, which like this was actually a big problem in the countryside. You would have like dogs breaking in to your property and eating your livestock. So obviously farmers were really really angry when that happened. And if you were to start like taking a club and beating the dog and people would see you, they would not like what you're doing. Even if you had like the excuse, it's like, oh well, it was on my property and blah blah blah. Like that was not acceptable. So what people did is like they took the dogs. Like if you had a dog which was on your property, right? So what they did is like they would take the dog and put it in a carriage and drive with it somewhere far, far away from the village, and they would let it in a forest or something. So that's what people did back then. Viruses are actually not alive. The way we were told about them, they are at the limit of living and not living. So it's at the boundaries of life and non-life, I guess. You can't say death because yeah, but like the very boundary between a living thing and a non-living thing. That's how a virus is described. They reproduce, they evolve, they are life. Yeah, but I would have to think about it. If just like reproducing and evolving. So technically, they don't reproduce themselves. They reproduce because of the reproducing and evolving just means it's organic. It doesn't necessarily, like for example, if you were to inject some genetic material into a cell, like the genetic material itself, you wouldn't consider that it's alive. It's just like organic. And when the cell replicates, it would replicate your genetic material. But that wouldn't mean that the genetic material is a living entity. And even then, like the nucleus of a cell, you wouldn't call it an organism, right? It's just part of the cell. I guess like this is just uh, worrying whether or not Pluto is a planet. And some people would agree that it's a planet, other people wouldn't. It's the same with viruses, really. So the way it was described is that these are entities which are at the border between what we consider to be alive and not alive. So I mean, if you want to consider it alive, fine. But it's so different than everything else we know that's alive. Um, and it's not just of the way it multiplicates, because it needs to get in a cell, but just because it's parasitic wouldn't mean that necessarily that it's not alive. Yeah, they're less capable than parasite. I mean, if we found a virus on the moon, would we consider that you have found evidence of life? Like you would say that you have found organic matter, but you would probably, it's kind of like finding a car battery. Like that is not evidence of a car. It's just like a part. Yeah. I'll have to think about this philosophically if you really want to. Um, yeah, they're very weird though. They don't have digestion. They don't have respiration. They don't have metabolism. They don't have any of these things. But at the same time, you can't say it's non-organic, because it definitely is organic. It reproduce, as you mentioned, it reproduces, but it doesn't even reproduce. Like that's the problem, right? Like a virus doesn't reproduce. A cell reproduces the virus for it. So when cells divide, they divide the genetic material, which is inside them, and if the virus is inside the cell, they divide the virus as well. So that's how they reproduce. Like they use the reproduction function of the cell in order to reproduce. They don't reproduce by themselves. Like even bacteria reproduces by itself. So what a virus does is it uses the cell's reproductive function in order to reproduce itself. They are the devil's work, yes. Yeah, it does have DNA of its own. I mean, there are two types of viruses. There are viruses that are ARNA and DNA. So it depends on the virus. But just because it has DNA of its own, well, again, it's exactly why it was described. It's at the limit of what we would consider alive. So yeah, technically it's alive, but it's so weird. Like it's so different than everything else. The tyrannids are living organisms, so no, they're not a virus. Although if you like zoom out and you look at the tyrannids as a entire organism, you might consider it as a virus. Crystals reproduce? Get the fuck out. You know, it would be interesting though, like if you explored the universe, because like actually we don't know of any other planet besides Earth. But like if you find another planet and you have like crystals there that reproduces, or like some life form that would really blow you away, like something that you don't find on Earth, but you would find on that planet. So like yeah, like crystals reproducing, that would be so interesting. Like sentient crystals, I mean, or um, a sentient planet, or something like it would be interesting. I still don't think crystals can reproduce. So weird. I'll need to look it up. Is it alive? It needs a host to reproduce. Yeah. Even parasites, like there are parasites that need hosts to survive, and there are parasites that need hosts to reproduce, but the reproduction is done by the parasite itself. So you don't like they don't use the host system to reproduce the parasite for them. Like for example, I think Giardia it's called, right? So if I'm not mistaken, like is the Giardia the one that the sheeps eat? Whatever. Like there is a parasite that you have it. It has different stages of life. So the first stage is that it finds itself on the grass of a leaf or on a grass or on a leaf, and then a sheep eats it, and inside the sheep, it evolves. Sorry, it goes to its second stage of life, and inside the sheep it starts multiplying, and then the sheep shits it out, and from that feces, a bird can eat it, and then it goes into another stage of its life, and then the bird poops, and like the poop, it's actually how the parasite reproduces, because then the sheep eats it again. So it's still the parasite that reproduces itself and divides itself. It's like, I mean, it uses the host in order to facilitate the transportation, but it's not the same like a virus, because a virus uses the actual cell in order to copy itself. Sentient crystals are the Naru from WoW. They also made that in Star Wars. I think like you have sentient crystals in Stellaris. Technically, everything depends on something. Yeah, but like this depends so much on something else that you can't really consider it. Like you can't really consider it the same. Yeah. Anyway, Tumba, that is a good point. It's like if animals have rights, and you have a parasitic animal like a tapeworm, should it be considered like an abortion getting it out? Because it's like, well, the tapeworm wants to survive. So what do you do then? Anyway, right. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.